What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Happy Skews Day to you. It's July 25th, 2023. I'm Trey Crowder. That's Mark Agee. What's up, Mark?
Nothing, Trey. I was just reading the news today, and looks like Biden's going to get him impeached, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Over what? Like James Comer was on TV today trying to explain why, and the Fox News host asked him where the evidence was, and he goes like, "Well, there's not evidence."
Right. Who's going to get the credit for it? Is it Marjorie's thing? Or, 'cause she was fighting with Boebert over that, right? Like, and is it even going to be one of them? Are they all fighting who gets to file the articles, or however that works?
Yeah, well, McCarthy was trying to explain the difference between like an impeachment inquiry committee and actual impeachment. Like he's trying to like blunt it because it's probably like a pretty big disaster for them, and they sort of recognize it. But there's like inertia among the psychos to do it, to look busy and to look tough. So he's like, they're going to do something. But Biden was asked about it today, and he just sort of laughed because it's like, yeah, this is going to go horribly for them, make them look stupid. Another legal news that Long Island serial killer got caught a week or two ago.
Mm-hmm.
The guy that they should have caught sooner, but he had killed sex workers, so there not enough people cared, and also the police chief in that town was embroiled with a bunch of prostitutes, so he didn't want anybody talking to a bunch of prostitutes. So like the guy was just free for the anyway. The guy was an architect. Turns out he worked for Trump a lot. So there's that.
Wonder if he got paid.
Yeah. Maybe
that's where the rage came from. Not getting paid by Trump.
Yeah, pay your contractors, people.
Yeah, no, that's wild. I assume there's going to be a myriad of true crime docs and podcast episodes and stuff that lay out all the specifics of the horrific detail. Not that I'll listen to any of them, but my wife will. She'll be all over it. So
I prefer more specific true crime stuff. Like I was telling you guys, I've been listening to this Death on the Lot, like Dark Underbelly of Hollywood podcast about like James Dean and George Reeves and stuff. And it's pretty interesting. But like as far as just like luxuriating and like regular people getting murdered, it's not really my bag.
Me neither. I've always thought it was weird too. I had a stand-up bit about it for a while because like Katie's just like, like a lot of white women, she just loves it, and I've always thought it was weird because it's not fake. Like false crime, I'm all for that. Like a serial killer movie, like a movie, Silence of the Lambs, something like that. Yeah, it is. It's super interesting, very fascinating. I agree. But when you're talking about like actual people who got skint or chopped up or whatever, weirdly, it just kind of bums me out for the most part. I'd rather not waller in it.
It's also this thing where like it treats serial killers like they're geniuses when it's like the easiest kind of murder to get away with because like there's no connection with
there's no connection, there's no motive, right? Yeah,
right. Anyway, so yeah. Other like Trump related legal news is like rumors he's going to be indicted by the special counsel this weekend in DC on Thursday in DC, and like I don't know why people think that, but it's a thing that's floating around out there. But an update on a story we talked about last week about the fake electors that got arrested in Michigan or charged in Michigan. This woman gave an interview. Her name is Michelle Lundgren. She's one of the people who was indicted. She says that she was tricked, that she was lured there under false pretenses, and all she did was sign her name to a sign-in sheet, and they took her signature and put it on the elector certificate. So I'm not sure if she's trying to rube's defense or she's saying she's willing to flip on whoever did that, because I don't think the jury might let you off for whatever, but the prosecutor's not going to let you off just because if you don't say who did that, then you're just still in fucking trouble. Right. But it's pretty funny that like, did you not know what club you're in? Like,
yeah,
you're there to argue that Trump was the rightful winner of the election. You don't think that these psychos would use you, but anyway, so it's possible Trump or some people around him might have some legal exposure in Michigan as well. Speaking of these fucking right-wing psychos, LeBron James' son, LeBron Jr., they call him Bronny. He had went into cardiac arrest at basketball practice yesterday. He's entering his freshman season at USC. And anytime somebody especially has a heart problem, if they're young, the anti-vax weirdos go crazy on the internet.
Yeah.
And it was all over Fox News blaming the vaccine for him collapsing. And he's out of ICU. Hopefully the kid's going to be okay. He's only like 19. But like Elon retweeted saying the vaccine causes heart problems, or but you couldn't rule it out. Basically, he's doing that just asking questions bullshit. But that wasn't even really crazy enough for the internet, because the internet went all in on LeBron. This is cover for LeBron James doing a ritual satanic sacrifice to get in the Illuminati, which LeBron's already in the Illuminati. Like,
Right.
he's one of the most rich, successful people on the planet. So, like, he's not
Yeah.
sacrificing his son to get into a more exclusive club.
I thought he was. I thought that he had already. Maybe I'm getting him mixed up with somebody else. I thought he had long been thought to be part of the like Illuminati or whatever. Like him, Jay-Z, Beyonce,
Mhm.
and a few other ones. I thought that, he was already on their list of people that was in it. Yeah, but the idea that he would like sacrifice his kid so they'll let him and LeBron James, as though they wouldn't roll out the red carpet for King James, obviously.
Yeah, there's no club in the world that LeBron James can't get into. I don't know how to bring those
Right.
people.
But I mean, is he going to
And
be able? Is his
yeah,
kid going to be able to play again, or did they discover some kind of heart thing? Because that type of stuff happens every now and then, and sometimes I feel like it's because they had some kind of heart issue that had not been previously diagnosed, and then
right.
and then they're
I mean,
done after that, which would be a
yeah, I
bummer.
mean, this isn't all that uncommon, which is why even like most high schools have like defibrillators, in the gyms now, on the sidelines for football games, because a lot of times no one's looked at a teenager's heart, but I
Right.
haven't seen anything about where they'll play. It's way too soon for that. So it's possible it's a surgical corrective thing, or maybe it needs medicine, or maybe he'll never play again. I don't know, but hope all kids live to adulthood. So let's. And good news. Another update from last week. The Teamsters UPS drivers, delivery guys, won without having to strike. They got a new contract from their bosses. Guarantees almost a $3 per hour wage increase this year, and a $7.50 per hour increase over the life of the contract. The big issue with them was getting payout for part-time workers, which they got that up from $16 to $21 per hour. It also makes it harder for them to pay people just as part-time workers when they're working close to full-time hours. They got also guaranteed health and safety stuff like air conditioning in their trucks, which they've been fighting for. The company had said it was that would be too inefficient to not have their guys pass out from heat stroke in the back of the truck. The Teamsters were declaring victory. It's not up to me to weigh on the specifics, but they were super excited about this contract. They called it like basically revolutionary. It was unanimously endorsed by the union's negotiating committee. It still has to be approved by the rank and file later on in the month. One way it's great is because UPS stock dropped a bunch, so the Wall Street psychos were upset about it. So that's but like the media keeps doing this anti-union fuckery stuff, and I'm not one who's like going to. I worked in newspapers, and I know there's no top-down organizing thing where somebody tells you how to frame something or tells you to do this. It's more of like the way the people that cover this stuff, how their brain works. And here's a story from Politico, which is like Politico is one of those news organizations that's has the most like centrist brainworms kind of stuff. Headline, quote, "This is a problem. Biden faces looming strikes that could rock the economy." Yeah, sure. A bad economy would be bad for Biden. The UPS strike would probably affect the economy, no doubt. But the frame on this is like wrong. Like all the problems we're facing, like the fact that workers are standing up and fighting is exactly what the economy and democracy needs.
Right.
Like you're having a bunch of workers vote on whether or not their employment status is acceptable to them. That is what democracy or social democracy looks like. It's good for America. It's good for,
But
sorry, go ahead.
well, what do you mean having worked in journalism before, you mean it's just like, I don't know, it just is more effective and gets more eyeballs or whatever if it's like alarmist or something? Like it's better to frame things as bad generally just across the board. Also, I have a question. Like, did they is the publication or the editor or whatever change the headlines or come up with the headlines or suggest the headlines, or it's the person that writes it? Like, does that,
The
like,
person who the reporter does not write the headline. People think
right.
that, but that's not the
That's
truth.
what
It'd be an
I thought. Yeah.
In the old days, it would be an editor. Like you'd be picking the headline based upon the font size you wanted to use and how much space you had to put it in. Right? You want to get the gist across. But what I'm saying is, like when people talk about corporate media, like the CEOs calling down to the desk telling people what to write or what to do.
Right.
In this instance, it's more like the Washington media covers everything from like a horse race perspective about what politicians it helps and hurts. And this just isn't about that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, so like, I just like, I hate but like, if you want to see worst cases of what I'm talking about, where it does look like editorializing, Penske Media, which owns all the Hollywood trades, and Rolling Stone, and also the guy who owns it's a member of this the AMPTP, which is the studio's negotiating organization.
Yeah.
They've been doing a lot of weird shit. Like the other day, there was an article with an anonymous agent saying his big name actor clients want to go to the picket lines, but were asking for hair and makeup people beforehand and wanted to treat like a red carpet. Now, that guy may or may not exist, but why that's a story is it makes actors look like shit. All right.
Right. Yeah.
But like, there's another one today.
I could kind of buy that, being like the way some actors could be like, at least one of them would be like that. I could see it, but also, I mean, you're right. The reason why it's like not a story in the first place or whatever.
Yeah,
it is.
It's not representative. Funny. It's not representative of anything.
No, because it's like we talked about already before with that when it comes to that strike. I can't remember if that was a Patreon episode or regular episode or what, but like people, it's already a problem that like when people think about these strikes that they think of those people anyway, the A-list like megastars or whatever, because like that's a fraction of a percent of like the actual union members and also the stuff that's being argued over. I mean, the AI shit could affect them, but like generally speaking, it's not really about those guys. If those people are showing up, it's just out of solidarity or whatever anyway. But yeah,
or
but
people think
do what?
Or to take cool pictures of makeup. Like, I don't know, but like, it's like, that's not the point.
But people see an actor strike and they think of the actors they know who are these stars or whatever. And they're like, oh, they got it all. They got it made and all this shit. But that's not really appropriate.
What I was about to say was there's an article in the Rolling Stone today because Snoop Dogg canceled a couple Hollywood Bowl concerts in solidarity with the writers. And even the headline said, which has nothing to do with any of these strikes. Now, yes, Snoop Dogg is allowed to do concerts during a strike, even though I assume he's a member of the Screen Actors Guild because he's acted in a bunch of stuff. But he doesn't want to. And I'm not sure what this person wants. He wants the police to kidnap Snoop Dogg and make him rap. I don't know. But like, it's trying to make Snoop Dogg's doing something he says out of solidarity. Maybe he just wanted the night off. I don't fucking know. But the idea that you're making a whole article out of the Rolling Stone is like kind of ridiculous to me. But for another small update on the WGA strike, my wife has decided to save money by trying to cut her own hair. So if that doesn't go well, she's going to pull a full Ron Perlman and burn people's houses down. So the
she ain't done it yet. She's not done it yet.
No. She's watching YouTube. She's watching a bunch of YouTube tutorials first. Right?
Yeah.
So this is going to go.
Well, that's the first step. You're going to do any kind of DIY thing is you go to YouTube, and I'm not being sarcastic either. You can fucking find you found how to do anything on YouTube, up to and including cutting your own hair.
Yeah. But as far as like, I found this interesting today. Hakeem Jeffries, the minority leader, the leader of the Democrats in the House, came out today and said he announced the Democrats raised the wage act, which would gradually lift the minimum wage to $17 by 2028. So it sort of, to me, was a sign of where the wind's blowing as far as labor and stuff's going. Now, I don't have any specific brief about what the number should be, about how fast should be raised. And I understand small business people would, say they would struggle with a minimum wage jump from $7.25 to $17, although in a lot of states it's like 11, 12, 13 already. Yeah. A lot of cities have $15 minimum wages. But more is better, even if it's not that high. But I thought a centrist Democratic leader saying that was a big deal to me because Bernie was basically called a communist for wanting it to be 15 3 years ago.
Right.
And this isn't my joke. It's a joke I saw the other day, but like in the last 20 years, we've had 2 minimum wage increases in 3 Willy Wonka movies. So I think we can raise it a little bit. Yeah.
That's good. All right. Continuing on with us as always is producer Matt. This is Weekly Skews. Before we continue, I want to remind you of a few things. Of course, Matt, I'm about to surprise you with one. I didn't tell you about this, but anyway, so don't worry about it. We don't have a graphic. It's okay. But the first thing is, if you want to see me perform live, go to TreyCrowder.com. I'll be in the Midwest this week, Omaha, Kansas City, and Des Moines, and Connecticut, and upstate New York, and all over the place after that. It's going to be fun. Come and see me, TreyCrowder.com. Number 2, you can watch my special Damn Boy on YouTube. But also on TreyCrowder.com, you can find a link to pre-order a book that's coming out that me and Corey Forrester, senior Georgia correspondent, that we wrote together called Round Here and Over Yonder. Look at that. Oh, my God. He had a damn graphic. Look at that. You can't catch this some bitch unawares unless it's a video you need to play. But you're doing great, Matt. Thank you. Yes, you can pre-order that book now. It's a very comical travel guide that we think you will enjoy. And then lastly, if you enjoy this program and would like to show your support, you can do so by signing up on Patreon. weeklyskews.com/more or go on Patreon, look me up. Either way works. $5 a month gets you access to full-length bonus episodes. So we cover things we don't get to in the main show, things that come up in between, or just stuff we want to talk about. We're having a lot of fun with it. We hope you will consider signing up, getting some more skews in your life, and supporting the show in the process. That's weeklyskews.com/more. Holler at us on Patreon. All right, that's for the show tonight. It's misstep after misstep for the DeSantis campaign. It seems that things are looking more dire by the day as he's getting flat out smoked by Donald Trump in all the latest polls. So what does that mean? What kind of actions are they going to take? Is any of it going to matter? We'll talk about it all a little later. But first, the Daily Dumbass. Matt, graphic, please. Tonight's DD, the people with 6 figures in journalism school debt who thought they'd be doing something besides this. Hit it, Matt.
Speaking out against the movie of the summer. What woke messaging is Barbie hiding? Find out tomorrow on Jesse Waters Primetime. I'm speaking out.
All right. So you might have heard there's a Barbie movie out.
Yeah, I did hear that somewhere.
You might all have also heard it's super woke, although no one can really say why. And the right-wing psychos sort of like disagree about why it is, and we'll get into that a little bit. Some of them actually think it's a conservative message movie. I've saw people say it's actually deeply conservative because it's about family and like traditional gender role. I don't know. I haven't seen it. Not sure I will until at least it hits streaming. My wife wants to watch it. But like it is just interesting to me that like how pop culture obsessed like right-wing psychos in this country are, because like I was just trying to imagine like Joe Biden commenting on a movie out right now. Like what if Biden gave a speech about the Barbie movie? Like that would be generally like just it would like jar me.
Yeah, like why is he talking about this? But they, I haven't seen it either, and I haven't like kept up with all their outrage, but I've seen bits and pieces of their outrage about it, and I know that it's like obviously there's all these different Barbies, and it's a very diverse array of Barbies, and one of them's trans and one of them's black and one of them's this and that and all this other stuff. But it's like that ain't like Barbie's always done all that, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like Barbie's the toy line has always had every type of Barbie you could want, including like ethnic background, and you probably get Catholic Barbie, Jewish Barbie, I don't know, but like that's always been part of the deal. And also that it's like it's it's misandrist, they say, like it hates men, or it's a man-hating movie, which I assume means it's got some like feminist whatever themes in it, and it's like it's a fucking Barbie movie. I don't know what you're gonna get like out, you're gonna get irate over like a girl power message in a Barbie movie. Like, what did you think was gonna happen? Like, why are you even watching it in the first place? Like, it's just, I know Ben Shapiro got all upset about it. He like, put an hour-long video out talking about how it was, the death of America through wokeness or whatever. So, but yeah, you're right. It's all just so ridiculous and absurd.
He did like a 43-minute YouTube review of Barbie. Right. And the movie itself is 2 hours.
Yeah.
He promoted that video by throwing a bunch of Barbies in a trash can, pouring lighter fluid on them and setting them on fire. Now, to be fair to him, which I hate doing, it was obviously an over-the-top joke, and he knew it was that.
Okay.
But like, why you're putting children's toys in a garbage can and burning them, and everyone else and you're the normal one.
Right.
It's like, but like Ted Cruz has like made this his latest cause. Like he's been on like 20 different cable shows talking about this. Cruz does this shit all the time. And if you remember, he like went on the floor of the House and read Green Eggs and Ham. He's gone to war with Big Bird, like literally. This is a guy who originally made his name before he ran for Senate when he was Texas's Solicitor General, arguing from the Supreme Court that there's no constitutional right to jerk off. Just a fucking deeply weird dude. Like that's when Texas was trying to make sex toys illegal. He's trying to say, there's no right to jerk off. Which, like, do you know how much the landslide you'd lose if that was like,
I know
your main campaign?
Do not, don't come after jerking off, bro. What are you thinking?
But Cruz is like, he's all over the place on it. But like, there's sort of an international incident here, because there's a map on the screen in Barbie for like 2 seconds. that is sort of Asia, but not. It's like drawn cartoonishly, and there's like a dotted line in the middle of the ocean, which there's a Asian geopolitics are crazy. Like there's like something called the 9-dash line, which China claims like basically all control of all the South Pacific or the South China Sea, which Vietnam also claims control of, and so does like some other countries. So like there was a dotted line in the middle there. So Vietnam, like Ted Cruz's take on that was this is kowtowing to China. It shows Hollywood bowing to China, which is stupid because it's a cartoon map no one thought about. Like I've never been a part of a production that would put that much thought into a Barbie map. But but Vietnam banned the movie for the same reason. So I just want to point out that Ted Cruz is in absolute agreement with some communists. All right.
Also, a lot of the times the stuff that they'll take out of movies and stuff to air in China is like the same type of shit that they get mad about here for being woke. Meaning like if there's a gay kiss or something in it, you know what I mean? Something like that, or an interracial kiss or something that China don't like that. So they'll take that out to put in. It's the exact same type of shit that they bitch about here too.
I mean, like Hollywood is actually bowing less to China than it used to, but yeah, there's market reasons why they do that. So China, I think only lets in like 32 American movies a year. So it's fierce competition to see what they let show in their theaters. So yeah, if you can get a leg up by like say Top Gun, Maverick, not having the bad guy be China and have it be some fictional made up country, then that's free money. I think Top Gun Maverick didn't get let in China anyway. But so the 2012 version of Red Dawn, they made the bad guys North Korea, so you had North Korea invading America instead of China because they wanted to have access to that market. Like they do shit like that all the time. It does exist, but there's less of it than it used to be. And why get mad at them over this for a Barbie movie? But so let me quote here from a guy. This is Dan Dresner, professor of international politics at Tufts University. In case you think it's just me that thinks Ted Cruz is stupid, the cartoonish image from the film is a nonsense map. There are squiggles and arrows and hashtags and dotted lines all over the damn place. To the extent that the map is supposed to depict the Pacific Rim, the dotted line is nowhere close to where the actual 9-dash line is. Also, there aren't 9 dashes in it. There's like 7.5. But they just want to be mad at it. And because of the strike, no one's allowed to do red carpets and stuff. So the Barbie premiere, I guess because of his wife's connections or whatever, Matt Gaetz was at the premiere. If you have this picture of him at the red carpet, Matt, throw it up there. So Matt Gaetz was invited to the Barbie premiere, was one of the most famous people there. And then when they came out, his wife urged people to boycott it.
While walking out of the theater where they saw it at. Sorry, I know I should know this, but you said his wife's connections. What are they?
He married into a rich family from Southern California. I forget what a family actually does, but I don't know why Warner Brothers is Barbie Warner Brothers. I think it is. Why they would invite Matt Gaetz? I have no idea. Who fucking knows? But okay. Yeah. But her complaint was that Ken's testosterone is disappointingly low. Of course, Ken's testosterone is low. He literally has no balls. Yeah, right.
That's what I'm saying. They thought Ken would be telling Barbie to get back in the kitchen or something in this movie, that Ken was going to be like an alpha male running the show in the Barbie movie or whatever. I
think he kind of does. I think the plot of the movie is the Barbie universe is matriarchal, and they go out in the real world and discover it's men are in charge, and Ken gets inspired and goes back and tries to put men in charge of Barbie. That's my loser. I haven't seen it. I don't fucking know. Maybe I'm wrong. But people went and counted how many times they said the word patriarchy in the movie, which is a really fun way to enjoy movies. Take a notebook and make a tally every time they say the word patriarchy. Right. I think it was 10. But Piers Morgan, the fucking guy looks like a bullet ham.
British blowhard.
Yeah. He wrote this story in a British tabloid. If I made a movie that treated women the way Barbie treats men, feminists would want me executed. I got bad news, Piers. Feminists would like to see you executed anyway. I don't understand. Isn't there real shit to talk about? At least they're not going after trans people with the real estate they're using to do this. But of course, like you said, there is a trans actress in the movie playing one of the versions of Barbie. But Piers says that there's this is in a Barbie land with a myriad of other Barbies who tick every possible woke virtue signaling box. Barbie's also, that's what Dr. Barbie and shit was about. I know. Right. I don't fucking know.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. That was always a big part of the Barbie thing. I thought was supposed to be that Barbie's an astronaut, all this stuff. Little girls can be astronauts. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
that type of shit has always been like integral to Barbie's whole thing, I feel like, which is why I just don't know where any of them get off being surprised. And and if you're a man who gets like genuinely offended by like any form of entertainment, like ripping on men comedically, then you suck. I'm like, just take it. Don't be such a don't be such a bitch about it. Like,
it won't surprise you that like this isn't catching on. Like this headline right here, the right wing backlash against Barbie is hilariously flopping because there's like no there. Like it's just like, but they're because these guys are only talking to each other. Like we're gonna talk about like internet psychos running around DeSantis' campaign a little bit in a bit, but like their takes are kind of inscrutable to the outside world. Like let me tell you what I'm talking about. Like there was a meme in like right wing like anti-feminist incel internet last week, a couple weeks ago, where somebody had made a video or a post with a picture of Margot Robbie without makeup.
I saw
and
that.
said that I have to be honest, Margot Robbie is at best mid. Now, if you're not familiar with internet slang, mid means like medium or like 5.
Yeah, mediocre.
Now,
yeah.
Yes.
Margot Robbie without makeup. Absolutely absurd, dude. I would love to see the dude who made that original post or meme too. You know what I mean? Like, I'd love to see what that guy looks like. Just like a 25-year-old Ted Cruz in his fucking basement or whatever in his underwear. Talking about how Margot Robbie is mid.
Yeah, loudly announcing he will not fuck Margot Robbie.
Right. Yeah. Like, thank God you cleared that up. Yeah.
But this is so deeply ingrained in like their understanding of the world that like Matt Gaetz a couple weeks ago gave a speech at a Turning Point conference. In the middle of it, I have to say, truth is truth. Margot Robbie is not mid, and the whole crowd busted up laughing. Which I have to say, I try to comment on women's appearances in public, especially as a married man. But Matt Gaetz is absolutely right about one thing: Margot Robbie is not mid.
Yeah,
and all these
too old for him, idiots. But
right. Good point. And some other movie news, a brief update on a thing we did a bonus episode about recently. We did a whole episode about the Sound of Freedom QAnon adjacent movie starring Q Psycho Jim Caviezel about a cartoonish fight against child sex traffickers, depicting things that absolutely did not happen and the way that sex trafficking works, which is absolutely not real. These people have gaslit themselves in pretty hilarious ways. We talked about how the box office numbers are super high, and a lot of people are seeing this movie, but also the box office numbers are juiced because one thing people are doing is doing like, you know, when you pay it forward, like at a drive-through. Yes. All right, they've done block ticket buys so other people can see the movie for free, which as far as I can tell, most of the people taking up those free tickets are like left-wing shit posters who want to go ironically.
Right. It's like the movie literally ends with like a QR code or something where it's like you can buy tickets so people can see this super important movie. So a lot of the like wingnuts, the hardcore wingnuts are doing that, but like people aren't going to see it or whatever.
Right.
Like,
so then when
one person bought whatever 50 tickets to it, and that happens, all the time.
Yeah. So when people do go see it, they'll be in a theater all alone and they'll take a video of it and post it and be like, they really do not want people to see this movie. It's like, you did that to yourselves.
Right. Yeah.
You did that to yourselves. There's also like a bunch of AMCs that have had air conditioning and projector fails. Like the air conditioning is probably failing because it's like the hottest summer in world history. But like projectors just fail sometimes because theaters don't pay for projectionists anymore, really. But like they're saying that's part of the conspiracy that AMC, who makes money off ticket sales, does not want to sell tickets, which has triggered another conspiracy theory. Where do you remember the GameStop shit with Reddit people?
Yeah,
playing. Okay, so AMC also became a meme stock during the pandemic. When short sellers are trying to put it out of business, so a bunch of internet people tried to valiantly save AMC by inflating the stock price. They're still holding the stock. So those idiots think that the empty seats and the conspiracy theories are conspiracy theory against them by short sellers and, I don't know, the deep state to crush AMC stock. So it's two conspiracy theories at war with each other. The shit drives me insane. Anyway, back to the real world, sort of. The movie's about Tim Ballard, and it valorizes him as some like action hero type dude, even though he's not that. For brief reminder, he runs a group called Operation Underground Railroad, which stages, sort of like Navy SEAL raids on places kids are ostensibly being held, but like sort of a lot of that doesn't. I don't want to go back through the whole episode we did, but a lot of that's sort of fake and staged. But he has been forced out of Operation Underground Railroad, whether this movie making him out to be a hero is still in theaters, because there were essentially HR complaints lodged against him by an employee who he traveled overseas with, and then read between the lines, I guess, allegedly hit on or tried to have sex with.
Mhm.
And while she was like, not in her home country in a way. So what I'm saying is he sex trafficked an employee.
Right. Yeah.
And QAnon's still looking for the guy who did this.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Things are silly out here. Sillier every day, it would seem. But everybody's cool with Oppenheimer, right? Except for maybe the
all the people he killed.
The Japanese, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. To be fair to Oppenheimer, like his whole take was like, the science is going this way. It's going to get invented. We should be the ones in control of it.
Invent it. Yeah, I felt like that was. I mean, that as somebody who used to work in Oak Ridge, right after that happened, we heard that type of shit all the time, and it was always presented as, like the scientists involved. It's not that they just had a hard on for, blowing up cities. They were like, it's just, this is going to happen. It needs to be our side that does it. Anyway, let's talk about Ron DeSantis, I suppose.
All right. So a lot has been going on in DeSantis world this week, in the last week or two. Basically, his campaign's failing, but he's still pressing harder into his psychotic governing style. So it's more like, how fast is he going to lose, and how many people's lives is he going to like destroy or end in the pursuit of like power, because he thinks he needs to look like more of a psycho to win a Republican primary, which I'm not quite sure that's exactly an accurate take, but it seems to be his. So I want to talk about some more damage he's done recently and the state of his campaign. So here's some polls from Fox News on Sunday. Fox News, by the way, has been trying to make DeSantis happen. There's no reason to believe these polls are skewed in anyone's favor but DeSantis's. So he looked at Iowa and South Carolina, and both he's behind Trump by more than 30 points. In Iowa, he's in second, but only 5 points ahead of Tim Scott and only like 8 ahead of like Vivek Ramaswamy. In South Carolina, he's in third place. Nikki Haley has 14 points to his 13, and Tim Scott is also from South Carolina, just like Nikki Haley is at 10. So I wouldn't be surprised if DeSantis finishes fourth or fifth there, because I think Ramaswamy's at 8. So basically, he should quit and go home.
Right. Clearly. Well, how much of that do you think, just prognosticating a bit here, or speculating rather, like, we've talked about this before with like Trump and DeSantis. It's like, on the one hand, I think this is all hilarious because I hate Ron DeSantis and this is very funny to me. And you got Schadenfreude watching him, crash and burn and all that. But on the other hand, Trump is up by 30 points. Now, it's the Republican primary we're talking about. It's not like it's the general election or whatever. But like, how much of it do you think is like, if DeSantis is absolutely fumbling the shit out of this thing, like for sure. And how much of it is, do you think, about him versus Trump? Like if he was like competent or whatever, if he was what they had hoped he would be, would it be any different, or is the Trump, cult still just that strong? Like, how do you parse out the takeaway from the whole thing?
It's interesting to me because he kind of has a case of Democrat brain, where like, what I mean by that is like, he thinks political reality is what it is and he can't change it. Like if he was actually running against Trump, like it might be different. Like he might, like if he actually tried to change people's minds, but instead he's like soft criticism of Trump. Like, I believe in everything Trump did. I just want to do it slightly more effectively. It's like, that's not going to do it, but like, I'm glad he's losing because I think he fucking sucks.
Yeah, me too.
It's like, I don't like arguing over hypotheticals about like, who would do better than general. The polling I've seen says DeSantis would do better against Biden in a general election. But of course, the national audience doesn't really know DeSantis like that yet. So I don't really know if that's fair. But anyway, DeSantis does know that things aren't going badly. Like just today or last night, he let go of more than a third of his campaign staff. Part of that's because he's running out of money, and part of that's because they fucking suck. But let's start with the running out of money part stuff. One reporter posted this earlier. One GOP operative snipes to me, quote, DeSantis has fired 40 plus people because he and the first lady refused to fly Delta or American to Des Moines and Manchester. They're using private jets to jaunt all around the country, which isn't normal for a presidential candidate. Most of them do fly commercial.
So it is a money thing. Like that makes it sound like it's a money thing. Like if he would fly commercial, he could afford to keep these people, but he's firing them because he's running out of money. And he wouldn't presumably be running out of money if he was doing, better.
Yeah, he's also refused to do a lot of, like, he did an interview with Jake Tapper last week, which is like free media with a wider audience, but instead he's been trying to do smaller, like he did his campaign launch announcement on Twitter. Remember we made fun of it? Mm-hmm. Like, it's just like galaxy brain shit where if he knew how to talk to a regular person, he would know it wouldn't work. But like, he, instead of doing anything to talk to regular people, which he absolutely hates doing, they're spending like $300,000 of campaign funds per night on renting ballrooms and having big fancy parties to like woo donors who also don't like him. But like, if he was any good at wooing, he would have a single congressional endorsement, which he does not yet. Not one of the over 200 psycho Republicans in the House have endorsed him or the 49 senators or 50 senators or whatever it is. Everybody hates this motherfucker. And when I say everybody hates him, I include his employees. Here's his track record of his staffing woes. When he was in the House, he had one of the highest turnover rates in Congress. No senior aide from his 2018 race still works for him. He's fired so many staffers as a governor that some have formed a support group where they get together and talk shit about him. All right. Sound like some snowflakes to me, but
it
whatever.
Does. Yeah. I mean, just like go to the bar and bitch like most of us do. You know what I mean? Like complain about your boss or your ex-boss or whatever. You don't have to like formalize it in that way, but maybe they're just that scarred by working for
there's old Drew Carey used to have a stand-up bit where it's like, oh, you hate your job? There's a support group for that. It's called Everybody. We meet at the bar. Yeah, right. But in DeSantis' defense for firing people, like, they do fucking suck. The problem is that he's the one that hired them. Like, remember that video we talked about Pete Buttigieg's response to it because we couldn't show the video because it got deleted, about that homoerotic, homophobic video that he made. Turns out that wasn't just something someone on the internet made and they reposted it. That was made in-house. All right. His staff made that. They thought it was a good idea, and they tried to launder it through an outside Twitter account to make it go viral. So, it did go viral, but not in the way he anticipated.
Right. To briefly remind everybody, it was basically like it like ripped on Donald Trump for like being humane about gay people or trans people or whatever. Pretty much it showed like clip Donald Trump being like, yeah, I'll treat gay people equally. And it was presented as like, can you believe he said this? He's gone woke. DeSantis will crush the gays. I mean, it didn't literally say that, but that's pretty much the gist of the whole thing. And it was all intercut with like oiled up gladiators and all this homoerotic shit. It was really weird.
And Patrick Bateman and Achilles from the movie Troy. It was very weird. But anyway, so he made his campaign, and I'll skip ahead to the reveal here because we're running out of time. This was also made in-house, it turns out. They made another really weird video that went viral this week that they tried to delete off the internet because everyone fucking hated it so much. We have to play it without the music. We'll just play a little bit of it. Matt,
no sound.
We'll tell you why. It's another video about how Trump's too nice and failed to be mean to the right people. Mm-hmm. It's got a famous internet meme as the main character and instead of face right there. That's basically a cartoon selfie of an incel, for lack of a better way to put it. It just shows DeSantis like hanging out, opening doors and looking at newspaper clippings, and like it's set to Kate Bush's "Running Up That Hill," which is, besides the fact it's a really weird song, a really popular song because it was on Stranger Things when it came out in the 80s.
Correct.
The song is about men and women swapping genders. Not the context of.
Did you say that's what it's about?
Yeah.
I had no idea what that song was about. I just know the chorus.
Right. So it's called Running Up That Hill, A Deal with God. It's basically a song about how men and women would understand each other better if we could switch genders for a little bit.
Okay.
That's sort of the gist of what the theme is. But anyway, it ends with this image. If you can skip to that image, Matt. See that right there?
Yeah. It's not fascist at all.
I mean, it's not just look fascist; it is fascist. That's a Sonnenrad. Like a swastika is a form of Sonnenrad, and it's a number of ancient. It's one of a number of ancient European symbols appropriated by Nazis in their attempt to invent an idealized, Aryan Norse heritage. I'm reading the definition from like a Anti-Defamation League, which is a Jewish group. The Buffalo mass shooter from last year used a Sonnenrad as the header of his manifesto, and a kid working on DeSantis' campaign, who's a well-known kid in right-wing activist circles, put that DeSantis' head in the middle of a Sonnenrad in their video. He also sort of hacked this video. I mean, by hacking, I mean stole it. Paul Gosar made almost an identical video a couple years ago. They just changed the music from MGMT to Kate Bush, and Gosar picks to DeSantis picks. So they're not even original in their Nazi shit. And don't steal stuff from Paul Gosar. He's a well-known fucking Nazi. The kid who made it, his name's Nate Hochman. He was a speechwriter for DeSantis, and he used to write for National Review, which is a mainstream conservative publication as far as those things exist.
Yeah.
This guy was a fast rising star in their world. He was like the media friendly face of the new right. He had big time fellowships. He also was a subject of a profile in the New York Times in his early 20s. And he just blew it all in the past few months by first praising Nick Fuentes, who's a Nazi, and then this Nazi meme. But also, the DeSantis campaign fired someone just for doing free speech. Do they have the woke mind virus, Trey?
Right, yeah. It's supposed to be allowed to express himself here, especially with a free speech warrior like DeSantis at the helm, you would think. Yeah, I'm sure that guy probably, you're like, oh, he threw all this away by getting all Nazi-ish with everything. And it's like, I'm sure he was just, he thought he was just playing the hits. You know what I mean? He's probably absolutely stunned and blindsided by that outcome. He's like, no, I was just giving the people what they want.
If I wanted to be super charitable to Hochman, and I don't really want to, but let me be his defense lawyer here for a second, I would say that, like, he might not have known it was Nazi imagery, but the corners of the internet he spends all of his time in have this kind of stuff posted in it a lot, and he just thinks it looks cool without knowing the background of it. But also, he's really smart.
So but also it looks cool and like what? But as soon as you brought it, I didn't know that was literally Nazi imagery. But as soon as you brought it up, I was like, well, that's not fascist at all. It's like, even if he didn't know that, it looks like something from one of the propaganda videos on Starship Troopers or something like that.
Right.
Like, forgetting that it's like not made up, it's a real thing, but it's like almost cartoonishly fascist looking. And so he at least knew that, or it's like, that's at least the aesthetic they're going for, even if he somehow didn't know this is literally Nazi stuff.
It's also like he should have known, like, because the same people all over the internet saying that the Democrats should let Russia win because the militias and battalions we're arming in Ukraine are Nazis, and their evidence for the Azov battalion being Nazis are that they have sonin rods on some of their uniform patches. So, like, either they don't believe their own evidence or they forgot it. So I don't fucking know. But anyway, the fix to get his campaign back on track, and here's their pitch to campaign donors, is that Ron DeSantis has been too restrained so far. So they're going to let Ron be Ron.
Oh, I think that is the very last thing that they should do. And what little I've seen and learned of Ron DeSantis, Ron should be way less Ron than he's being right now. That's what I was going to jokingly say. You're like, here's the fix for his campaign. I was going to be like, is it for him to quit and just be replaced with a whole different human being and just start over and try something else? Because this ain't working. Like, he should be so much less Ron. He should just be an entirely different person and see if that works out for him.
Yeah, he should be Don or
if he was Don, let Ron be Don. It's working out great for Don.
Put on a fake mustache and reboot, which is like, let Ron be Ron. He's a pretty acerbic guy. He thinks doing battle with the media makes him look good. Even if, to me, it just looks petulant because he's often asked reasonable questions. Like, one of those reasonable questions recently was, why is your new education platform saying that slavery was good, actually? Seems like a reasonable question. If that platform is doing that, which would it is. So we talked about this a little bit, I think, on the bonus episode. So a state board appointed by DeSantis has changed some of their educational standards for history teaching, and they want to emphasize that a lot of enslaved people learned skills that were beneficial to them later in life. Now, it's hard. We only have 16 minutes left. I don't want to spend all of them explaining why this is bullshit. One, whether or not you learn something, does it not the point? Also, you're talking about a very narrow window of enslaved people who got to both start their life in chains and then become free. You're ignoring the 400 years before that of people that died in chains.
What kind of, like, what also could be the rationale for emphasizing that be taught to people outside of downplaying the horrors of slavery or trying to assuage some of the white guilt or something by being like, well, it actually wasn't so bad. Like, what other rationale could there possibly be for requiring that teachers emphasize hey, listen, some of this stuff they picked up pretty useful stuff. All right. And they wouldn't have done that if it hadn't have been for our papaws
All right,
or whatever.
I'll continue the theme of this episode of me playing defense lawyer for some of the word that for people I very much dislike. You could say that like you're downplaying black people's agency and making them sound out to be bigger victims than they are, and that they did, some people did make them, but it's like it's still based upon like people kind of their mental image of slavery and the experience of it is very weird to me. Like they can't even like they don't even bother. They learn so little about it. Like a lot of enslaved people were skilled craftsmen. A lot of them were skilled craftsmen before they were enslaved, which is why they wanted to enslave them because they knew how to do cool shit. They were like master ironworkers and stuff. Like in the lowlands of South Carolina, they didn't know how to grow rice. They literally kidnapped people from the rice growing regions of Africa to fucking to grow rice because they didn't know how to do it. So yes, they did have skills. You're the ones who assume they're just like, but like people were like skilled carpenters and shit who were like loaned out like Home Depot rents out drills. But like that doesn't mean that they enjoyed slavery.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
They weren't in fields. It's like, but like when you defend this shit, like here, let's watch this video of Jesse Waters trying to defend it, and you'll see how stupid you sound when even you talk about it like this.
Yeah, this is great. Well, great's maybe not the right word, but yeah. Hit it, Matt.
No one is arguing slaves benefited from slavery. No one is saying that. It's not true. They're teaching how black people developed skills during slavery in some instances that could be applied for their own personal benefit. No one is arguing slaves benefited from.
Like, no one is arguing this. Let me go ahead and argue it real quick.
Right.
Literally back to back, like with no self-awareness at all. It's so funny.
Yeah. So like you could just if you were DeSantis, you could be like, there's a couple people on the board I appointed. The language is worded poorly. We're going to fix it and move on from it. You could very easily just do that, right? That's what a sane person would do. And if you're Fox News, you could not make a big deal out of it. But they seem to think they have something here to the point where like Greg Gutfeld was on like the 5 yesterday on Fox and said he started talking about how like a lot of Jews survived the Holocaust because they were useful. And like, are you saying work makes you free, bro?
Yeah.
Like, what are you fucking saying? It's like, yes, a lot of Nazis did keep a lot of Jewish people alive to use as slave labor. It doesn't mean it's good to know how to be a slave.
It also it's like there's also another interpretation of that. I feel like that it's like, so to all you lazy poor people out there, let that be a lesson to you. All right. We might kill you one day. Okay. Yeah. But if you make yourself useful to the powers that be, then, perhaps we'll let you live.
Yeah. So the board that did this tried to defend themselves, and they put a list of people who, quote, benefited from things they learned from slavery. They basically found a bunch of people black people who were blacksmiths, sort of. But like the list they handed over was people named Ned Cobb, Henry Blair, John Henry, who's a literal fictional person, and Lewis Latimer. None of them were enslaved. Again, one of them is a made-up person. John Henry may or may not have existed, but everything we know about his life is fake. He did not beat a steam machine in a
steel driving.
Yeah. He did not. That never happened. Anyway, also with the list they turned over had a white lady on it. I don't fucking know. One lady who's on this board, she happens to be a black woman. She's a state rep named Kimberly Daniels. If you want to hear how she thinks about it, here's a quote from a sermon she gave a few years back. Quote, "I thank God for slavery. I thank God for the crack house. If it weren't for the crack house, God wouldn't have never been able to use me how he can use me now. And if it wasn't for slavery, I may be somewhere in Africa worshiping a tree." Now I understand the language of like God doesn't give you more than you can handle. I grew up with it, but thanking God for a crack house is weird. And also like, I'm not like, I understand that she thinks God has dominion over everything and probably that like she would exist in every universe, but I have to assume if your ancestors have been left in place in Africa, whole different generations of people would have married each other, and you specifically, Kimberly, would not fucking exist. Right?
It's funny to me to imagine God being up there like, I knew that crack house was going to pay off. Like, I knew that was a good call. And patting himself on the back. I'm going to put more kids in crack houses.
Yeah, I could be pro crack house and be against Joe Biden letting all the fentanyl across the border. I don't understand these people. Again, Just to update, we talked about Florida's teacher shortage in this type dynamic before. It's gotten worse lately, and they have the quote unquote. This is a news article from last month: the worst teacher shortage in history. And by the way, I saw an interesting article today full of polling. When schools have become battlegrounds, we talked about it a lot, but the people mad aren't parents.
Right.
People that think that schools suck are people that don't have kids in schools.
Yeah.
People that have kids in schools generally say things are fine. So it's people are mad about hypothetical kids being taught super woke shit. And on the other side, you have parents who are like, no, it's fine. They learn like math and coloring and stuff. So like, it's just like, God. So one thing Ron DeSantis has done in his pursuit of his vain pursuit of the presidency. I mean, vain in both senses of the word. Is he's destroying Florida schools, not just new college and public schools, but he's done a bunch of other fucked up shit. But we have some math this week about what his flip flop on vaccines cost. Because remember, Ron DeSantis originally did lock down Florida and was pro-vaccine until he turned against it because he thought that was the cooler side to be on to make some space in the primary between him and Trump. So with less than 7% of the nation's population, Florida accounted for 14% of deaths between the start of July in 2021 and the end of October. Remember, in Florida, the high vaccination rate's more important because they're older, like they're the second oldest state in the country, basically. But by the end of July, Florida had vaccinated only about 60% of adults, which is shy of the national average. Had it reached a vaccination rate of 74%, the average for 5 New England states at the time, it could have prevented more than 16,000 deaths and more than 61,000 hospitalizations that summer. So Ron DeSantis, let's just say he killed 16,000 extra people and put 61,000 in the hospital. That's according to a medical journal called The Lancet. We've talked about what he's doing in the economy of Florida, not just going to war with the state's biggest employer in Disney, but also he announced this week he's going to take Bud Light to court under the premise that the shareholder value they lost because of the backlash to the Dylan Mulvaney video is, Bud Light's fault and not his fault. And that Florida's pension funds were invested in Anheuser-Busch. But my thing is, if you know your state workers' pension funds are invested in a company, maybe don't actively drive their stock price down with your harebrained bullshit. We've brought up before Florida's worker shortage because of his fascistic immigration policies, where all the migrant workers are leaving for Georgia. I saw this article. This guy named Rick Roth, who owns a sugar plantation and is also a state legislator, was speaking at a Hispanic Ministers Conference a couple weeks ago, and he said farmers are mad as hell about this. Apparently not realizing that he voted for it, not understanding what it would do. Mm-hmm. But it's not just Florida's immigrant workforce is disappearing. The state workforce is decimated. Not just teachers, but as of October of last year, 28 of 29 state agencies has percentages of vacant positions in the double digits. The Department of Education, Department of State, the Agency for Persons with Disabilities, and the Department of Elder Affairs, probably pretty important in Florida, said about 1 in 4 jobs are open. The Department of Veterans Affairs was hollower with 39% of positions empty. All those are older veterans. Like, Florida is basically the land of old veterans. Mm-hmm. And he's destroyed the fucking state government. It's not just his state campaign and the people that have support group meetings when they quit his working for him directly. Nobody wants to work for the Florida state government under this motherfucker. Right. And the state's still going to be there when he's term limited out or whatever, or leaves to be Donald Trump's secretary for the Department of Weird Perverts.
Yeah. Well, maybe. I don't know. It might sink before then or get, flooded or made much smaller since things are ever worsening on the climate front and whatnot. But either way, not good what he's doing down there. Matt, if you want to find some comments and stuff, throw them up there if you got some for us.
Briefly do this one last, because it's not just retired veterans that DeSantis is whose lives he's ruining. So he reopened like the state guard, which is like a state military unit that reports directly to the governor, saying that the Biden administration wasn't responding like the Florida hurricanes and stuff faster. So a bunch of people signed up. They thought they were signing up for like a FEMA workforce, or they're going to wear khakis and blue polos and hand out water and help people get their power back on. But he made them march around and start doing drills and train with weapons to crack heads and shit during civil unrest. So a bunch of them tried to quit. This Marine veteran complained about leadership and tried to leave, and they kidnapped him, put a black bag over his head, and put him in a van. so he couldn't tell people about it. He currently has kidnapping charges filed against leaders of this thing. These are people who wanted to help their neighbors, and Ron DeSantis tried to turn them into, again, the infantrymen from Starship Troopers. So, yeah, fuck this guy.
Fuck this guy. Well, at least he's getting whooped up on. Aaron Streeter says hit like because Matt's the GOAT. I mean, yeah, I see what you guys are doing, playing into Matt's sensibilities here, or playing, trying to play him like a fiddle, and it's working. Doing great. Yes, hit the like button, please. Like, share, subscribe, all that good internet stuff. Thank you for reminding me. I always forget. And Severn Williamson says DeSantis is a disaster from Florida. He would be a nightmare for our country. Indeed, but again, looking less likely that we're going to have to worry about it right now. Not to count any chickens, but weird. I just said the word chickens, and Jim Gray says the chickens of owning the libs have come home to roost. Look at all these chicken metaphors and idioms that are thrown out there at the same time. How about that?
I never thought about how many chicken metaphors there are.
Yeah, people like chicken metaphors. Carsey says, wait until Americans see the inflated prices of fresh produce because of DeSantis' laws driving out workers. I don't know that I'll trust them to put it together. I was about to say, I don't know that I'll trust them to put it together that that's what happened. But Amy Nagel says, Smart Mark, can you please explain what the Illuminati is? You would be able to explain, Mark. I find that interesting. Yeah, go ahead.
It's a cartoonish conspiracy theory about the small group of people that secretly controls the world. You know, not the real group of people that secretly controls the world, which is just like 25 billionaires. About,
right?
Like the ones who put the eye on the dollar bill, where if you fold it, it makes a pyramid or whatever.
There's some kind of diamond thing, or I remember this is why they were saying Jay-Z was part of the Illuminati, is because they decide he does this like a symbol at his concerts, and they said that's an Illuminati symbol or something like that. I don't know. I'm sure the Illuminati absolutely predate. Well, I mean, dude, the Illuminati is a super old conspiracy theory, but like way before QAnon even became a thing, I had some friends who were like hearing stuff about the Illuminati and whatnot, but I imagine they've gotten wrapped up into the QAnon situation, I would assume.
It's one of those like you're talking about Protocols of the Elders of Zion level. This is hundreds of years old. Yeah, classic
old shit. One of Dan Brown's book, you know, the Da Vinci Code and all those books. One of those books is about the Illuminati. Kind of like the Da Vinci Code is about Freemasons, and another one's about the Illuminati. It's about all that type of old school conspiracy theory type shit.
I like those people inventing like a secret group of weirdos that control the world when the Habsburgs are right there with their.
I know, right? It's like you don't need a secret group. I mean, yeah, it's what you said. It's like we can like see the people that are controlling the the world, and they're not all Jews either.
They just had a billionaires conference in Sun Valley, Idaho, or wherever. Was it Sun Valley, Utah? I forget where. It's Sun Valley, but like there's like 1,000 private jets parked in like a square mile where they're all meeting to plan what to do next. It's like, that's in the fucking newspaper. I'm not what to tell you. It's like, they're not an underground layer.
Alan Speed says, DeSantis is this election cycle Scott Walker. He will crash and burn soon. Sounds like he's doing it right now.
I don't remember. I mean, I'm sure there are cases I could think of. I know like a lot of American politicians were shitheads to specific groups, your George Wallace's, your whatever, your who he belongs to a certain degree. Like, but I don't remember like there being a class of politicians who are this actively malevolent in every direction. Like DeSantis hates teachers, doctors, everybody but cops. He's torturing his own state troops.
I know that's what I'm saying. I've been like, that's what I've been marveling over for a while now. Is like, I don't get how this is supposed to be an efficacious long-term strategy, like continuously alienating more and more demographics of people all the time. Like, how is that supposed to work as a politician? Used to, they fucked over, like disadvantaged people and then tried to act like they weren't doing it, publicly or whatever. Like, no, all Americans are, like that type of shit. But now they just say fuck everybody except for this very, very narrowly defined cohort that's like their people. And I just don't think that's enough to keep winning.
Ron DeSantis, even like he's Catholic, but he talks like an evangelical, like it's reframed how he talks about religion just to cater to a specific group of people. And like, basically, like if you're not a exurban, divorced, white owner of a Sea-Doo dealership, Ron DeSantis has no interest in your well-being.
Right. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you all for watching. Listen, go to TreyCrowder.com, get tickets, come see me. You also find some other fun stuff on there, like pre-ordering the book. There's a link to the special. Check out all the stuff I got going on. I appreciate it. And to support this show and get bonus episodes, 2 a month, full-length bonus episodes, that is, you go to weeklyskews.com/more or go on Patreon and look me up, support the show. Either way, as long as you keep coming back, we will too. Each and every Skews. D, we'll see you in 7 days.